Bassmaster Tour comes to Toledo Bend Reservoir, no one's thinking too much about the weather. It's the promise of big fish that gets everyone excited. But the steady downpour was hard to ignore. What could have just as easily been a warm, spring-like day was a sloppy mess with no place to hide. But the big fish came. Kotaro Kiriyama's big one was the best of the day, and the top 3 anglers brought in limits of over 20 pounds. Hard to imagine it, but on day 2, the weather prospects were even worse. Not only was the rain back, but also the prospect of something a lot stronger, the kind of things that happen when moisture from the Gulf smacks into a hard-driving cold front.
Until 8:30 a.m., areas will move eastward over Louisiana today. This will result in continuing heavy rain, thunderstorms with associated strong winds through today. An associated squall line moving through the area this afternoon will increase the likelihood of severe thunderstorms and isolated tornadoes.
As the takeoff time came and went, things just seemed to deteriorate. These are the times when you definitely don't want to be a tournament director. Some anglers want to fish, come what may, some don't. In the end, you're responsible for their safety.
We're thinking of our strategy, how we're going to catch some fish. Gary and I both had trouble yesterday catching some. We don't need a shortened day.
Well, now you can add to the mix a lowering ceiling, thickening clouds, and a heavy fog that makes navigation impossible.
Early flights lose out. So I'm thinking around 10 o'clock we'd have to call day due to fog. I mean, what do y'all think?
I think that's fair.
What really concerns me is what's coming, and a lot of these guys are scared of life.
The final decision seems clear: no fishing today. But no one wants to cancel. So day 2 will happen a day later, on Saturday, when things are a lot more agreeable. Finally, a break in the weather, and everyone seems to make it out to the weigh-in. And why not? There's a lot to see and a lot to do. The weather is cool and windy, but fishable, and a lot of anglers even found that rare commodity, clean water. Caught some good limits and some really big fish.
Push it. 8 pounds, 14 ounces, 814. Hold him up again. Take a picture.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
Welcome to the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. I'm Tommy Sanders. Our big tour event on Toledo Bend Reservoir set to go with day 3 action here in just a moment. Also in a moment, we'll introduce you to the 12 anglers who are shooting for the Super 6 who'll fish on Championship Day. Now, the clouds have lifted, you could say, for these anglers as day number 3 gets underway, but there is still a cloud hanging over the world of professional bass fishing. Certainly lost a great one last week when Carl Maxfield passed away at his home in South Carolina. Carl was greatly respected angler, 12 years on the Bassmaster Tour, always went about his work in a competent, very cheerful way. He was much loved, not only for his sense of humor, both about life and his work, for his great generosity, his willingness to do anything for anyone in need. He will be missed.
Spent the week with Carl fishing with him out on Santee Cooper, and we had a great 3 days of fishing. He was a great friend, a great competitor.
Just a great, genuine guy. He was, wasn't any gray area about him. He was black and white, very witty, and really a truly good friend and an ambassador of our sport we're really going to miss.
Carl put me on a plane to fly home back to Arkansas on Wednesday, and then we lost Carl Friday morning.
It's really difficult to find a true friend, somebody that no matter what will help you out. No matter what time of day or night you call him, you need something, he'll be there. Somebody that has your best interest at heart all the time. That's a true friend. That's what Carl was to me.
It's affected all of us. It's affected my fishing a lot this week. At least I know the last day he spent on the water was a great day because I was with him, and I still can't believe that he's gone. We've lost a fine man and a great competitor and a real good friend.
Yeah, I'm just really going to miss him.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, by Busch, and by Skeeter.
It's the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. This week, our big tour event, one of the biggest of the world's big-time bass fishing lakes, right there on the border between Louisiana and Texas, Toledo Bend, mighty Toledo Bend. 300 miles of shoreline, 600,000 acres. Jerry McInnes here has fished a lot of those miles of shoreline, but I bet it didn't look like it does today.
It's muddy.
Yeah.
These guys can't catch fish in this mud. Hey, all we've talked about for the whole show practically is how hard it's raining. So with a little help from an aerial right now, you can take a look at exactly what the mud has done to Lannan Creek. This is where our course is going to be set up at. Lannan Creek is probably a mile long, and it is mud from one end to the other. This is possibly the toughest bass fishing situation most of these guys have ever been in before. And during the qualifying days, there was talk about the course. There was talk about canceling it, adjusting it, doing something different. And Jay Yellis stepped up and said this.
Trip, I'd like to see it keep the finals in Lannan Creek. What's wrong with having a real tough deal? I mean, the U.S. Open's the toughest golf tournament. No one ever breaks par, but people love to watch it. It's entertaining. It makes for a great story. All this mud and rain, and these guys will catch them.
Well, you heard that. Jay Yellis says we're going to catch them in there, so stay the course.
Hey, Jay's the man, and let's take a look at the course. Lannan Creek is where this is going to be made up in. One creek above Pendleton Bridge on the Louisiana side, and the creek is sectioned into 6 different holes, a lot of room in each one of them. This is the 191 bridge separating 3 and 4, which is probably the real mud holes back there. Watch out for number 1. During the day, the wind will probably hit that awful hard. When we start today, there's going to be 2 boats in every one of those holes. They'll fish in it 1 hour and 20 minutes, and Tommy, at the end of the day, all 12 boats will have fished the same amount of time in each hole.
Well, our 12 anglers trying to make it to the Super 6 include the leader after 2 days of fishing, Brian Snowden, over 37 pounds. Our field includes a lot of old hands in the sport and some young faces as well. How about Zell Rowland? We haven't seen him in a finals for a while. And, of course, the classic champ, Jay Yellis. As I mentioned, we have some rookies like Todd Tucker there and Jeff Crete. We got these guys fishing hard. They're going to try to make it to the Super 6, the final 6 who will fish for the championship. David Wharton has won his share of tournaments. Edwin Evers of Oklahoma in the finals as well, along with Marty Stone, and Takahiro Omori made it in by an ounce.
This one's way too muddy back here.
Zell, you think that's muddy, man. You're in one of the cleaner holes, and the pattern is going to be pretty simple today. Fish shallow water, close to the bank. The water's really rising. These fish have got their noses against that bank.
The fish aren't really getting up until that sun gets up pretty bright and starts to warm the water a little bit, and the fish will start moving up to the bank. With all the rain that we've had, it's I mean, you're fishing a little bit different every day without realizing it if you're not careful, because the lake's continuing to rise.
Let's take a look at Shaw Grigsby's in hole number 2. This is a wooden bridge. Now, it's on a county road, but it's not crossing a creek or anything. It's headed out to one of the many resorts here on Toledo Bend.
Come on, baby. Golly, what a nice bass. That is one nice one to start the day right there, and just didn't even feel it.
I really struck out coming back here. It looked good when I rode through here. I just didn't take the time to idle that far back. It's looking promising. It's getting a little deeper now. This is all dry ground just 2 days ago. I don't think the bass have quite moved that fast over that big a flat. I'm not finding any deep water close by at all. We're gonna keep looking though.
Oh, it's deeper over here. But that's okay. That's a good fish. Take him too, buddy. Thank you, Lord. Oh, we gotta do something. Gotta back the boat up real quick. Isn't that awesome? Almost looks like a striper. You know what this is? Do you know what this is? This is a legal keeping spotted bass. Can you believe that? A spot. Texas spot.
Well, there could be several spotted bass around those wooden piers, and I'm sure that Shaw spotted that first time he saw his map, because that's where he started.
You know, the lake was down pretty good when we come here and practice. And it broke my heart. I'm one of these guys that love to fish shallow and love to fish the bushes. All that rain come in here. Yeah, now it muddied up some of my areas. I'm not gonna make no two ways about that, but what it did, it brought the water up. And anytime you have rising water, the fish come with it, so it puts them in there shallow. So yeah, it muddied it up a little bit, but it put them where I like to catch them at.
If I catch one, I guess I'm confident to start, you know.
Well, obviously, everyone's trying to get a bite, catch a fish, get some confidence, something going. Takahiro Omori struggling like a lot of these guys are today.
This is a totally different kind of fish I've been doing, you know. So, I've been looking for clean, clear water with hydora. I don't think I can find it here. So I'm gonna adjust somehow.
See, the water clarity in this spot is the best that I've seen this morning, but this isn't the type of place that would have very many bass. But that real muddy water with it being cold and muddy, I just don't feel like I can get bit in that stuff this morning. Now this afternoon, that real muddy stuff will warm up and the fish will bite a little bit in there.
Wake up, Jay. Yeah, I think everybody's getting a surprise here.
Worked.
These fish are going to bite today.
My strategy there of fishing in a lousy-looking spot only because it had the clearest water around worked on this little guy. He's not much, but I think he'll keep.
Sure he'll keep, and Jay caught that fish very close to this point right here. And in this hole, number 5 and 6 and number 1 are probably the cleanest 3 holes.
I've got 3 flipping rods out this morning, and I've got 2 jigs and a tube, and I'm one a 3/8 ounce and one a 1/2 ounce. And I got the 1/2 ounce for real heavy, thick cover like this bush right here, in case I needed it to penetrate that real thick stuff. But I'm not seeing a whole lot of real thick stuff this morning. The cover's fairly sparse still, and it doesn't have much water in it, so I was saying I might just need 2 3/8 jigs, and that'll give me a chance to experiment with color a little bit too.
A good start for Shaw Grigsby and Jay Ellis there, and I think with the conditions, we are all in for an unusual day. We'll be back to check in with Zell Rowland when we return. Citgo Bassmaster Tour on Toledo Bend. This is day 3 of the tournament. 12 anglers fishing our course, which is made up of 6 holes today. Basically, Lannan Creek, which has been off limits during practice and qualifying. So these guys are getting a practice day, a scouting trip, and a competition day all rolled into one. Big fishing community here. Lots of activity around the area, and our own Kirsten Gum is right in the middle of it.
Yeah, guys, I kind of feel like a traffic cop out here. I am standing on the Highway 191 bridge, which crosses over Lannan Creek. Now, this bridge is very important to the tournament because it is a boundary point. It actually separates holes 3 and 4, which are to my right, from the rest of them, which are to my left, which means each of the 12 semifinalists will have to cross underneath this bridge at some point in the day. Now, we are covering 6 semifinalists. Others competing today, Brian Snowden, Mike Worm, Todd Tucker, Jeff Crete, Keith Green, and David Wharton. We will find out their stories later on at the weigh-in today. Now, Tommy, I know that you were going to talk more in detail about the Busch Angler of the Year points race later on in the show, but something to note that's interesting, 3 out of the top 4 in the points race are still competing in the semifinals today.
Well, that's right, Kirsten. Jay Ellis, Mike Worm, and this gentleman right here, Zell Rowland.
And Zell has been in 11 classics. That's pretty impressive. Had a great, put that fish in the boat, Zell. He had a great qualifying day, caught over 20 pounds on one particular day. Really a very versatile angler. And so far, Tommy, you know, talking about versatility, most of these guys are catching their fish just flipping. Few guys, Takahiro throwing a spinnerbait and a crankbait. This gentleman right here, Marty Stone. I think we're going to come up on old Stoney there, aren't we?
Yeah, he's got himself a spinnerbait.
He's throwing a spinnerbait.
Fish missed the bait. Dadgummit.
Dadgummit is right, Tommy. You cannot miss these fish today.
I didn't take 2 cranks and he had it and didn't get it, didn't keep it.
I guess a lot of people would just throw up their hands, people that don't know that you can catch fish in muddy water. It's just slower, right?
Hey, it's springtime. These fish are wanting to be very active in the springtime. I don't care if the water does get awful muddy. They're still going to move up there to the bank. And look at that water, Tommy. That's not real bad. Matter of fact, Zell says it's just perfect, I guess.
It's working for him.
But really, the secret, bass fishing, confidence is such a big deal in bass fishing. And if you can get in that muddy water and get yourself a few strikes, you're off and running. You won't even think about it again the rest of the day.
No, I feel pretty good about this being the second area. I figured I could catch a couple. Some of the best areas, there's a couple local guys fishing in it, and it's just too small to really fish. But the fishing is going to be a little tough, I think, because the water in this creek's a lot muddier. But if I can just catch a couple fish every hole and get fortunate, and I expect the fish to bite better late this afternoon. And if they'll bite in the last 2 holes that I'm going to be in, I'll be fine.
Jay Yellis is fishing in hole number 1. You might remember we thought it would get really windy here today, but so far, everything looks all right.
What I'm doing is I want to fish this spot. This is like a second, kind of a main point in this creek. It's not a main, it's like a big secondary point. I want to see, this is such a good looking spot that if fish are on points, I'll catch one here. If they're not, I'm going to stick to the pockets the rest of the day.
That's some pretty good info from Jay, and the point being that if you can establish a pattern, every bass fisherman knows this, if you can establish a pattern for this hole, it'll probably work all over the course. It will save you a ton of time searching.
It's good fish. I snag in the backside.
Folks, it looks like that fish is snagged, and it is, but this is legal, and that fish was actually moving on that lure and probably made a swirl at it, and the hook accidentally snagged it in the side. It is a good catch.
Hey, I might have luck. Oh, yes. See? I like it. Yes. Hey, I have luck today, huh? Jeez. Boy, too muddy. Fish can't see the bait good. That's why I snag like that. It's happened to crankbait fishing sometimes. But got 2 more minutes here. I saw I snagged a catfish or something, you know? Last time I saw the white body.
Feel like I'm in the barnyard. This is the barnyard hole. That's what it is, the old barnyard hole.
Marty Stone, no fish yet, but he's sticking with that spinner bait.
I'm surprised more guys aren't fishing vibrating lures and spinner baits. Marty and Takahiro, the only two. That fish chased him to the back of the boat, Tommy.
He hit it right at the boat. Scared me, I ran from him. That'll work. I mean, he followed this thing right to the boat. It goes back to what I was talking about. I had those 2 4.5s on, and it wouldn't get down deep enough, and I put this a 4 and a 4.5 on, had a bite, and then, you know, it'll work. That's a start.
Well, everyone's confidence is soaring at this point. Takahiro taking a look at the next hole. Our 3rd hole is coming up. We're about to make the rotation. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. Welcome back. You're watching the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. Before we get back on the water on Toledo Bend, let's take a look at our Bush Angler of the Year statistics right now. Jim Bitter of Florida hanging on to first place. You'll also notice 3 of the guys fishing in our 12-man field today
They're in the top 5 spots. Very interesting stuff. As far as the Rookie of the Year standings, take a look at Terry Scroggins. He was on top. Now he's tumbled. Mark Kyle of Arizona takes over first place now. And let's hear it for Jason Reyes, who was our amateur winner here at Toledo Bend. And speaking of guys from Arizona, and a guy who's hanging in there in the top 10 in the Rookie of the Year, Casey EY. Thanks for joining us today,
Hey,
Casey.
guys, how you doing?
Great showing on Lake Seminole. How was it, like trying to run down Gary Klein and hang in there with Shaw Grigsby and guys like that? Did that worry you at all?
I tell you what, that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Those guys were idols of mine growing up, and I just enjoyed the heck out of it. The main thing for me was I really needed to concentrate on my own technique. I tried to do things that I tried to catch fish the way I know how to catch them and not worry too much about those other guys, but it was awful exciting.
Well, Casey, you know, we talked about this last week. You're only 20 years old. You shouldn't have been doing what you were doing. Tommy, that was impossible. That was fantastic, though, but how are you going to keep it up? I mean, we're talking about 175, 200 great anglers. It's tough to get down to TV day every week.
Well, just like I said before, the main thing for me to do is to try and concentrate on my own strengths. I try and be very versatile out there, and if I think that I'm competing directly against Clun or directly against Klein or Yalis, then it gets kind of distracting. So the main thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on my own technique, and I know I'm going to have some tough tournaments, but...
what do you need to learn? Really, where's your weak spot at?
Well, I think my weak spot right now is just experience. These are a lot of new lakes to me, and for me, this is my first year. I'm just getting my feet wet, and I need to go out there and just gain more and more knowledge and learn more and more about the sport.
His dad's who was a psychologist, right, by trade?
Yeah, my dad was definitely my ace in the hole. He was a psychologist for 25 years, and when I go out there and I have a tough day of fishing, he's the guy I turn to.
Great to have a resource like that. Hey, we got to get back out to Lannan Creek. Let's take a look at Shaw Grigsby out there, right near the 191 bridge. So he's got sort of a foot traffic crowd following him. I know you had some crowds, or at least some people following you down at Seminole. How did that feel?
That was a great feeling. You know, those people are such huge fans of bass fishing. When I caught a fish or when I set the hook, they would cheer and they'd clap, and it was just a great feeling for me. I really enjoyed that. I don't get that too much out west.
Oh my goodness. Oh no! Knocked the fire out of it. How did you miss that? You can't miss one in this thing.
Well, as we move over to Takahiro Amore, we saw Shaw missing that fish there. It really upset him. Every bite, when the situations are this bad, you know, all that mud in the water, every bite is important. How did you deal with that?
Well, the main thing for me, in a muddy situation like that, I feel like you really have to put the bait right in front of the fish. And because the fish don't get a real good look at it, it's important. Every bite, you gotta take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's keeper. It's number 2.
Come on, give me one good bite out of here. Should have been one here. There should have been one here. Gah. Set on him too early.
Golly, Bomb. I don't know what to do. I think he just come off.
Well, now we've got Zell Rowland and Marty Stonian on the disappointed list. Casey, you know, what do you do when you have these things come up? Do you holler at your dad and get him to help you out mentally?
Well, the main thing for me is every fisherman at this level has had to be in that type of situation. You can't catch them every single time. So for me, I just gotta let it go and get through it.
That fish was deep in there. I picked up and he took off. And I hit him, and he had, the advantage was fish right off the bat. Hold on, fish. Did you get all that? I had that one hung up to dry. That was on my J. Ellis Berkeley power jig with a 4-inch power craw trailer, black and blue. It's hard to beat black and blue in Texas. All right, that's 2. I knew this when I got in this little cove here. I knew it just looked too special. It's the right type of spot.
Back to Marty Stone, still here in hole number 6, trying to recover from a tough go. He lost that big fish a minute ago flipping, but now he's back to his spinnerbait.
Get it right out there. They're following this thing a long way. Nipped at it and didn't get it. He got back, got it that time. That'll work. I had that happen in the tournament, big time. I'll never forget the first day of the tournament. That's a good keeper there. First day of the tournament, I had one come off a tree just like that, and he missed it. And then that dude right there, he hit it. He hit it 4 foot off there, and he wasn't quite dialed in on it. He went right back to his tree, and the second time through, he couldn't stand it. That'll work. Oh, gosh, darn it. Oh, Jay. Didn't have a trailer hook on that spinnerbait. I saw that fish come up and grab it. Could have used that one. Saw the whole thing. Saw the bass come right up and kiss my little spinnerbait here, and he didn't eat it. Time for a trailer hook, I would say.
Well, the good news is lots of bites during period number 3 here. Not too many fish, though, put in the boat as we look at our scoreboard. Remember, we're only covering 6 out of the 12 who are trying to make their way into the Super 6 championship day. 5 of our guys knotted right together with 2 fish apiece, but they got to be thinking, hey, we need to get something going. We need to catch more fish. We'll see if they do when we return.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Progressive, by Mercury, and by Diamond Cut Jeans.
Finally, Mother Nature decided to cooperate, and we got back to fishing for the second day of qualifying. And despite all the weather problems we had, we actually saw a lot of good weights come in. We had 2 anglers bring in 20 pounds plus. Now, this is where the challenge begins. Remember, we zero out everybody's weights. They all start on an equal playing field. Then they're also on water for the semifinals and the final days, water they've never been on before. Remember, it has been off limits. They could not practice on these waters. Then to make things just a little bit more difficult, remember during that postponement, well, this area got more than 6 inches of rain, which means there is a lot of water coming off the Louisiana farmlands into Lannan Creek, and that changes up everything for our anglers.
I got something to take the weigh in.
Well, as we watch Oklahoma's Edwin Evers boat his first fish of the day, of course, that big change that Kirsten referred to, the fact that there's now a ton of mud. This is very, very murky water, and that's what all these anglers are having to deal with today. Edwin having the toughest time of all of them so far.
Buddy. I got me one.
God! I cannot catch one. Cannot. Whew. Man, that felt like a little decent fish there. He popped it. He grabbed it and said, I'm running home.
Woo!
Woo, Zell getting a little bit emotional on us there. Hey, did you realize, does our audience realize that Zell Rowland is one heck of a bass fisherman?
He really is. He's been around a long time, and I'm not saying that because he's old. He fished his first BASS event when he was 13 years old. Can you? He's the reason they have the 16-year-old rule now.
The Zell Rowland rule.
The Zell Rowland rule, exactly. Well, now we got to get out to Takahiro Amore. And Takahiro, I just wanted to ask you, what is your approach, your basic approach, when you're plopped down in new water like this course for finding fish?
Well, I just fishing. I just go fishing. Whatever looks good, I fish.
Well, what looks good?
Well, I don't find a good-looking spot yet, but I'm still looking.
Well, I know that generally you like Toledo Bend. This is your kind of lake, right?
Sure. This only fourth time I fished here. Every time I fish, I finish top 10. So this is just like Lake Fork and Sam Raven. This is a place I really like it.
Well, Talk, let's have it. What's your technique for fishing this muddy water?
Well, I'm fishing the shallower. I'm fishing tight to the cover. And I'm using the bait that had more wobble. I caught one, a spinner bait at the double Colorado. Lots of vibration. I caught another keeper on the crankbait, had a big wobbler.
Under this situation, is color a little more important than normal?
I think so. Everything, not just color. This is spinnerbait I caught fish. See the orange? Like orange, the braid with lead. I painted over the, using magic marker, painted for the chartreuse over the lead. So I think the fish have to see the bait to eat too. So I mean, have to feed it and they have to see it. So I think those are very important.
Okay, so you're talking about color, but how about vibration? How about wiggle?
Yes, I mean, both important. The color, I caught 3.5 pounds. The first fish was a chartreuse and the black back. And the kind of like, I think that fish missed the bait. Then I kind of like snag on the belly. But that's happened a lot at the fishing like this.
Well, thanks, Takahiro Amore. Now back over to Zell Rowland, Montgomery, Texas. And Zell, he's catching me, just needs to hang on to a few more.
He does. And you know what? We're way past the point of wondering whether these guys are going to catch fish or not. The fishing's actually pretty good. What is surprising me is that nobody has caught a big one yet. The techniques, the places where they're fishing, perfect for catching some 4- and 5-pound fish.
Plus, they're at Toledo Bend, and all these anglers will tell you. I mean, you're motoring past big fish every time you go out on Toledo Bend. It's known for producing big fish year in and year out, along with Sam Rayburn nearby.
I might keep. Hey, look what I caught him on. Good thing I put the trailer hook on there, baby. That's why anytime you're spinnerbait fishing, you have one hit your bait and miss it, you best put a trailer hook on.
Well, the 6 anglers we're covering today have just finished their 4th period. They're making that 4th rotation as they move into the final 2 holes. Let's take a look at where the action's been, Jerry.
Well, I want to take a look at where the action hasn't been, Tommy. Look over here, hole number 3. We have 1 fish caught. That's the only fish that's been caught underneath the bridge. There's the 2 fish that Shaw caught right off the bat in hole number 2. And then all the other outer holes are pretty equal.
All right, well, Jay Ellis has moved under the bridge into section number 3, hole number 3. Let's see if he can make it pay for him.
Big one.
There could be that big fish we were talking about, Tommy. Yep. And another reason why I'm surprised we haven't seen a fish like that is, again, it's springtime. These fish are wanting to get up there and start thinking about spawning.
That'll work. That'll go 4.5 anyway.
By the way, Jay's using 30-pound test line. That allows him to feel the strikes real well and pull those fish out of the brush.
Now that's a blessing there. Like I said earlier today, I wasn't counting on catching anything back here today because this water's so bad and muddy, but when I turned the corner and I saw the water clearing up in the back of this creek, it gave me a little bit of hope. But I wouldn't have to fish in a total mud hole. I can see down 6 inches or so. That's plenty of visibility.
Jay Ellis putting a little space between himself and the 5 other anglers that we're covering out of the 12 who are out there fishing today. One more period left to go here on Toledo Bend.
It's our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event from Toledo Bend Reservoir. We're fishing our rotation course today, and we have made the last rotation. Everyone is fishing in the final hole. We just saw Jay Ellis catch that really nice one there, and Jay, I was wondering if you could take a minute and tell us what happens to a guy in the year after he wins the Bassmasters Classic.
I've never gone through a year like this, Tommy. It's really been a grind. Some days I wonder if I'm in boot camp or not.
You're fishing well. I mean, you can have no complaints, right?
No, I can't complain, and that's the funny thing about fishing. I've put less into my fishing this year than any other year that I've ever fished the tour in 15 years, and yet I'm having one of my better years so far. I mean, it's early. We've only had 4 tournaments, but I'm right there, in the hunt for Angler of the Year. So go figure, I don't know. I've learned myself personally over the years, I've learned I do a lot better in tournaments when I just show up loose and relaxed and not, if I'm pressing and really try, I can almost try too hard. I've been known to do that too many times. And I seem to do better when I just show up and go fishing, and that's what I've been doing this year, and it's working so far.
All right, when you make that rotation, when you hit a new hole, you've got 1 hour and 20 minutes. Talk about how you manage your time, make it work for you.
What I'm doing now, I'm trying to find the clearest water I can find, and then I'm going back in and I'm trying to get on the shady, windy banks, and I'm trying to catch them on a spinnerbait or flipping my jig. And I'm looking for isolated cover. I've caught one off a cypress. I've had 2 bites on cypress trees, 1 bite on a point of buckbrush, but the clear water is the main deal. I mean, it's tough because the best looking spots to fish are too muddy, and so I'm passing up on the best water. I'm fishing the spots that look like junk, but they've got the clear water I feel like I need. And anyway, that's my strategy. I'm going to keep doing it.
All right, hey, thanks for your time, Jay. We appreciate it. Jerry, it's a plan that's working well so far. He's a lock for next week's finals.
Can you believe that he's fishing with the same style of jig that he used to win the Classic? Go figure.
How about that?
Hey, this is about a ½ ounce jig with a Berkeley Power Craw as a trailer, and if you're a bass laying down there next to a stick up or a stump or a cypress tree, this is about what it looks like in your face. And in spite of the muddy water, off-colored water, when that drops down in front of a bass, it is a crawfish, and his instinct says to jump all over it. So Jay's plan is to drop it as many times in as many different places as he possibly can, and it's a pretty good plan. Takahiro, on the other hand, he's fishing with this little hand-painted spinnerbait, and he's doing all right himself.
Oh, come on. The keeper? God, it's close. It's gonna be a close fish. Yeah. I got crankbait and but anyway, I'm gonna measure this one first. Let's see. Yes, it's keeper. Number 3. You see this? What's going on here in the back? I can't see. Damn. Golly. Let me take off this stuff. I'm glad I had another punch right here. Man, don't use that one, baby. Just like Bud, everybody laughing.
Takahiro talking about Bud Pruitt, who hooked himself in the chest with a crankbait at the Bassmasters Classic last year. I think Bud's release was a little bit more dramatic, but for overall comedy, Takahiro takes it.
That was great, and I hope Takahiro realizes that he is one of our very favorite professional anglers.
Come on. Yes, another big spotted bass. Man, I think I'm just going to live on the bridges. It took me all day to go to another bridge, and finally got one. I get a big spot. 2-pounder. I guess I don't have to worry about culling, so I think I'll just throw him in the live well.
Jay Ellis in hole number 3. Boy, he has made this one pay. Before he came in here, only one fish was caught here today.
I'm telling you what, I am so impressed with all these anglers. They've showed us why they're the best fishing under these conditions today.
Come here, Bacon. All right. That'll work. I knew I could catch one up here on a spinnerbait this afternoon on my little Berkeley prototype spinnerbait. That'll work. That's the limit.
And that's going to do it for Jay Ellis for today. Jay doing a little bit of showing off, catching unofficially 13 pounds or so in some very tough conditions. Take a look at the next 3 names on our list of the 6 anglers we're covering today. Omori, Rowland, Shaw. They better hope it doesn't take 7 pounds to get into the Super 6. I guess we're going to find out. The weigh-in's coming up next.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Yamaha, by Citgo, and by Bush.
And here they come. Our 12 semifinalists are off the water. They have just arrived at Cypress Bend. This is where the weigh-in takes place. Now, there is a huge crowd down there waiting to find out who makes it into the Super 6 on the final day. We're going to find out. Weigh-in is next.
Takahiro Omori. He finished 2nd here back in 2001. And you're back, Tak. How are you?
Great.
The weight for 3 bass is 6 pounds and 9 ounces, 6'9". Good job. At one point during the day, we understand that you took a seat, and it was an interesting seat to take.
What that mean?
You sat on a crankbait.
You know this already.
I know it all.
How do you know?
Because I keep up with you guys. You're gambling. You're sitting on things.
Yes, I did. It was, maybe it might show on the TV, but it was funny things I did. But
how did you get the crankbait out of your can?
I had another pants on the top, like rain suits. So it was on the rain suits.
So it just was through the rain pants. You took the rain pants off. Have you removed the crankbait officially from the pants?
Yes, I did.
And you're okay?
I'm fine.
Shaw Grigsby, here he is. Shaw, you made it.
Yeah, I did, and it's awesome to be here.
Let's get a weight for Shaw Grigsby with 6 pounds and 9 ounces, 6'9".
Uh-oh.
We go to a man from Arkansas named Mike Worm. Hello, Wormy. 4 bass to the scales. Watch him. He's got to have some big weight. Looking at 9 pounds and 4 ounces, 9'4". Mr. Oklahoma, Jeff Crete. Come on in here. There you go. Number 5, looks like that'll secure you a spot in tomorrow's competition. The weight, 10 pounds and 8 ounces, 10-8, second biggest string of the afternoon. David Wharton from Sam Rayburn, Texas. David Wharton, always a threat in Louisiana and Texas. There's a limit, 15 pounds and 7 ounces. The top 6 fish tomorrow, here they are. Shaw Grigsby and Takahiro Omori tied for 5th. Mike Worms in 4th. Jeff Crete 3rd. Jay Ellis in 2nd. Your leader, David Wharton, 15 pounds, 7 ounces. Big round of applause for my top 6, guys.
All right, congratulations to the Super 6. Good luck to them as they get into action next week on Championship Day. Before we wrap it up, let's look at our Bush Angler of the Year points. Jim Bitter of Fruitland Park, Florida, is on top there. Also, a couple of our Super Sixers for next time in that top 5 as well. That's impressive stuff. On top of the Citgo Rookie of the Year standings, Mark Kyle, followed by Jeff Reynolds and Chad Morgenthaler. Of course, Chad has already made the Classic, so he's not as points conscious as some of the other guys.
And I have just a couple of quick comments, Tommy. First of all, I think we have a strong 6 for next week.
It's going to be good.
And I'm putting my money on Takahiro. I know Wharton's got a lead, but Takahiro's going to pull it out. Okay. You watch. And the other thing is about the Angler of the Year race. This is just our 4th event. Long way to go, but the guys are starting to get pretty serious about it. Down there in 18th place is Gary Klein. In 35th place, David Fritz. There's some strong guys kind of hiding back in the bushes. In fact, the guy who's in, I believe, 43rd place, Casey over here.
That's
better
right.
watch out.
Don't discount our special guest here today. You got to be optimistic about the rest of the season coming up, Casey.
I'm fired up. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming lakes, and I think it's just going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, you're a drop shotter. You are a drop shotter. At least that was the impression we got because that's what we saw you doing last week. And to be perfectly honest, you better be able to do some other things. Can you?
I definitely agree with that. That's one of the first things that I really took into account when I decided to come out east, is that for me, I have to be able to be versatile to compete with these guys. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that the Western Invitationals, we fish a lot of different types of waters. We fish everything from the California Delta, which is all shallow water flipping and that type of fishing, to Lake Mead, where you can see 50 feet down to the bottom. So I feel like that was a pretty good training ground. I got a ways to go, but I'm looking forward to the upcoming tournament.
So if you do well and you fall in Santee Cooper, you're going to be a threat out on the coast?
I sure do hope so. I'll be working hard out there.
Incidentally, he said coming east. He called Toledo Bend coming east.
Coming east. Well, don't you forget, he's not just a drop shotter. Casey Ewai, thanks so much for being with us today. We'll see, of course, Casey in action next time out on Eufaula. We'll see you next week with the finals on Toledo Bend. Thanks for joining us today.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.